I've been tossing around the idea of doing some how-to episodes of the podcast, getting back to the roots of kind of like we've got this huge amount of people coming into the community, a lot of people trying out the game for the first time. It's being added to all of these platforms. It was free on PC. So I was like, okay, want to do some how to play Star Wars Battlefront episodes of the podcast and have some fun. And then Star Wars Hunters got announced randomly, quickly did a podcast on that. So now we're getting back into it.
Welcome
to Uplink. Before we get into the main meat of the show, I want to ask your opinion on Star Wars Hunters. We've had some time to mull it over. We haven't really gotten any more details, but we have had some more time to think about it.
Yeah, it's hard to say because we sort of don't really know much. I'm definitely very keen on it. Like any Star Wars game, like I'm going to be playing it straight away.
Yeah. We're so starved.
So I'm definitely excited. Yeah, exactly. I'm definitely excited, but I guess I need to sort of see what it's about first, and I think it shouldn't be too far away, really. Like, it seems like they do a lot of these announcements over the last couple of years, where it's just like 6 months before it comes out, they just announce it. So I'm pretty sure it's confirmed for this year, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Whether that's, this half of the year or maybe it's coming out later, not too sure, but yeah, I'm definitely very keen for it.
There's been more of a push in the gaming industry. Bethesda really likes to wait until the last second to announce their games. They like to push it. I think the ultimate goal, and a lot of people like to see this before leaks, and obviously that plays into some of it, but I think the gaming industry prefers to announce things like 6 months before it comes out. Obviously, some games start building up that hype much earlier, things like the mainline games, things you would think about like Red Dead Redemption or Elder Scrolls 6?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
6 is coming out, I think. I'm just not even sure. That's been announced like 3 years ago, and it hasn't
Exactly.
we haven't heard anything else. So your point is pretty much proven right there.
Exactly. But we've got a mobile game. Usually they're of a smaller scale than something like a console or PC game. It'll be fun to see how that shapes up when it comes out and what it's actually like. But today, let's talk about Star Wars Battlefront. Let's talk about heroes. So I'm thinking about it. Okay, who do I get on the podcast to talk about heroes? Obviously, I'm going to get SammyBoiii on the podcast because you are the hero man.
I appreciate that. Well, I'm not sure. I think like on YouTube I am, but there's definitely a lot of players out there who are probably more deserving of that title because their gameplay just puts mine to shame, to be honest.
That's true, but they're not you, and you're on the podcast, so you are the hero guy.
I'll take it.
So let's jump in. So overview, Star Wars Battlefront came out in 2017. As we all know, huge part of Star Wars Battlefront as a franchise since the beginning have been the heroes. Everyone loves playing the heroes in the game. Huge part of it. Some people only play the heroes in Star Wars Battlefront. People like a friend of the podcast, Ethan, huge fan of Heroes versus Villains. We've got Hero Showdown, which is 2v2, very competitive. You and also another friend of the podcast, Arg, have done some competitions in the past using that as well. But I think those are the mainline ones, and it also differs from your style of gameplay when you look at something like Heroes versus Villains and how you're going to play those heroes in Galactic Assault or Capital Supremacy.
Yeah, it's definitely it's almost like two completely different like skill sets in a way. You can be really, really good at Heroes versus Villains and then just not, it just doesn't really transfer over to Galactic Assault and vice versa. Or, there are a lot of people out there who are pretty much like insane at both. But yeah, I think it's still so different that you do need to, even if you've mastered one in one mode, you kind of still have to play a lot in the other modes to be able to, do well.
So what's your process when you're starting to research how to play a hero or villain? What are the first steps that you take when you want to get better at a hero?
Oh, it's hard to say because honestly, like after so long playing the game, I think it's like most of the knowledge and stuff is just there at this point. I'm definitely very rusty, so like if I tried to play now, because I haven't been playing as much, the kill streaks and stuff wouldn't be nearly as high, but I think just over probably more than 3 years, yeah. Playing the game, it's just like it just sort of happened. So it's hard to say how I would go about it. I guess for myself, when it comes to like, say, if I'm doing a hero guide, like I'll just play the character over and over again and just like sort of see where I went wrong each time, because I'll have a lot of failed kill streaks or whatever, and I'll just sort of take notice of what I did wrong and try and implement that in the next game, I guess. And then after, depends how long, depends on the character too, but after a certain amount of time you just kind of get the hang of them, and you're always going to make mistakes and stuff, but I think you just get used to the mistakes and sort of implement that into your next kill streak.
So would you say that playing heroes versus villains is one of the best ways to do so, or do you see something like co-op as a good alternative as well?
I think if you're like a full-on beginner, as in if you've probably picked the game up when it was free on Epic or even more recent than that, I think co-op is a really good way to get started, just because you can learn their like abilities and all that type of thing, how fast they are, stuff like that. You can kind of just pick that up pretty easily there. I think Heroes vs Villains is definitely better in terms of playing against real players. It's always, no matter how good you are against bots, it's completely different against players, and I think the more multiplayer experience you have, the better you're going to be. But I do think like very early on that co-op, and even just like arcade, even just playing completely offline is just good to get the hang of them, especially a lot of the ones like Boba Fett, for example. He's a lot harder to get the hang of just because of his jetpack and stuff. So some of the more unique characters, they're definitely really good for starting out in co-op, but I definitely think that multiplayer is where it's at in terms of growth.
I would agree. Co-op is really good for leveling up your hero, so if you want to get the levels up really quickly, that's a good way to do so. Or if you're trying to get the Darth Maul skin, that's a good way to do it as well. But Heroes vs. Villains, like you said, you get that experience playing against real players, and they're going to play so much differently. As good as the AI in Battlefront 2 is, which really, really good. I was playing Battlefront 2015 not too long ago, and the AI are pretty good. I actually played it on stream. We stream every Saturday, so I was playing it on stream. Wasn't able to get in any matches, so I was playing the offline survival missions and some of the offline stuff, and I was like, I was noticing how predictable and how bad the AI were from Battlefront 2015, and then for fun, after the stream, offline, I went and played some offline and some co-op on Battlefront 2. I was like, good gosh, these are like real people. But as good as they are, you are still not going to be in the same situation as you would be in Heroes vs. Villains. People are just going to play differently. AI will stick together a lot better, and people do not.
Yeah, exactly. I think what you said too about the predictability, that's pretty much the main difference really, is that the step up from Battlefront 2015 to 2017, where it's even that is a lot less predictable. I think when you go from that to then multiplayer, it's even more unpredictable, because people just play completely different. Every single every Luke that you come up against is going to be different than the last one. So I think that's really the main difference there, is just the unpredictability in multiplayer compared to in co-op and arcade and stuff.
What do you see as the big differences between something like Heroes vs. Villains and Hero Showdown? Obviously, you have the scale of the heroes, but what are the main differences that you see from a beginner's point of view?
Honestly, Showdown might be better for trying to learn the character, because it's more of a controlled area. If you get those one-on-ones, you can really just sort of play it really slow, which is something you sort of can't do that often in Heroes vs. Villains. It's a lot of 1v4s where you're just trying to fight someone and then his other three teammates come along and just demolish you. So I think Showdown is a really good mode mostly for probably lightsaber heroes. I think blaster heroes in Heroes vs. Villains, it's probably not too much different than Showdown, but I think if you're trying to get better at just the actual aspects of a one-on-one, then Showdown's definitely the better way to go. Yeah.
So you're mentioning the blaster heroes there. Do you have a preference versus lightsaber hero on blaster hero?
It's really weird because Boba's my main character by like, a long way. Pretty much like I've always played him, and he's probably like twice as high of a level as anyone else. But in terms of overall, I definitely prefer saber heroes. So really, Boba's the only exception, just because I just love the way that he's so fast and like agile. It just suits my playstyle a bit. I'm a very, which is probably why I don't get the super high kill streaks, because I'm too aggressive. I just kind of like I send it a bit too much. So he's just a lot of fun to play, and I don't. A lot of people don't like Boba mains, which is fair enough. There's a lot of Boba mains that annoy me too, but I'm more of a like super aggressive like Boba rather than the ones that sit back and hide on the top of a building or whatever. So
yeah,
he's hard to get the hang of, but once you do, he's a lot of fun.
You're more of a wasp than a fly.
yeah, that's a good analogy.
What do you really enjoy about Boba?
I don't know. It's mostly just the pace that you can play it. I think like you can sort of get into the areas where there's a lot of traffic, and then if you start to feel, I guess, overwhelmed, or if there's too many people there, you can kind of just quickly get out and like reassess and go to another area. I think that's the part that is a lot of fun for me, because you can try and, like I said, how I play really aggressively when I'm playing as, say, Han, for example. That just doesn't really work, because if you get in trouble, you're not going to get away from that. But with Boba, it's really weird. He's very fragile. He dies very quickly, but once you kind of get the hang of him, he's probably got better survivability than anyone else, because he can fly away and sort of reposition quickly. So
yeah,
I'd say that's the main part, is just the speed and the pace that he has around the map that allows you to sort of really be a bit of a pest. There's no other way to say it. It's like you get into an area, annoy some people, they start shooting at you, and then you go to the other side and do the same thing. So yeah, definitely a fun way to play.
There's a good portion of the villain side with their blaster heroes that are like that. Iden is like one of the most annoying characters to play against ever.
Yeah,
man, Iden, as well as Phasma. Phasma's dude. So been playing Battlefront Heroes vs. Villains on stream a bit, and we were going up to some sweats. So it was not too long after the big surge of the Epic Games Store. So everyone was on there. We had a bunch of noobs, really enjoying the time. Hopped on with friend of the podcast, Spikele, and a few others in the group. It's like, okay, let's go ham on some noobs here. And then we got paired up against some hardcore sweats, and we held our own. We were doing pretty good. We switched sides to the villains, and they were destroying us as the villains. So we tried doing that strategy, and through that, I found my love for Phasma. Like, Bosk is my main, usually on the dark side, but man, Phasma's fun.
She is a lot of fun. Yeah, I honestly think that a really good Phasma player is probably the best, like the most influential in the whole game. Like if you really know what you're doing with Phasma, you can pretty much win the game off your own back, as long as your teammates are sort of playing their role as well. But if you all just sit somewhere near her turret, like you're just not going to lose that game. She's really solid.
Yeah, definitely. Hard-hitting question here. We're talking about favorite characters. We're talking about the different playstyles we use on those. Who would you say is the best hero on the hero side, and who would you say is the best villain on the villain side?
That's tough. On the light side, I would probably say Luke.
Okay.
He's sort of one that comes to mind straight away. He's kind of like the lightsaber hero version of Boba, like very just in and out, sort of annoying. Like you can get in and just like wipe out half the team and then run back and get to safety. So I'd probably say Luke is the one that comes to mind. In terms of Galactic Assault, that is anyway. I think that I'd actually say Han in Heroes vs Villains.
Really?
I don't know. I don't know what it is about him. I think that his detonite and his shoulder charge can really mess up the saber heroes, and then just because of his blaster being so strong, he's pretty much going to beat any other blaster hero. So I'd probably say at least him equal with Luke in Heroes vs Villains, and then in GA I would say Luke.
Okay.
For the dark side, you kind of can't go past Vader. He's very, very busted at the moment. He's
such a tank.
Yeah, he's just too tanky. He's not that much better than anyone else in terms of like his damage and stuff, but he can just eat damage, and it just doesn't affect him at all. So yeah, I'd definitely have to go Vader for the dark side.
And is that both for Galactic Assault and Heroes vs Villains?
Yeah, I think he's honestly unstoppable in both. He's in Heroes vs Villains, he can pretty much win the game on his own, and in Galactic Assault, it's like it's going to take the whole team to pretty much take him down. So,
and this is also after they've adjusted him too.
Yeah, one of the last, I think actually the very last update that we got, this was after the Scarif update. They did one more, maybe even two more. And yeah, they fixed his. There was something really broken. I think he had like 80% damage reduction or something on his choke, and something about his regen as well. So they fixed a few things that. Yeah,
they came back and they fixed Vader and they fixed Grievous. Those were the two ones that they
that's right. Yeah,
came back to.
Because Grievous's claw rush was really, really broken for a minute there. Yeah, but that's the thing. Like he got quote unquote fixed, and he's still like miles above everyone else. So
yeah,
it's kind of frustrating. But yeah, I guess if you play as a team, you can still take him out. He's not unstoppable by any means, but he's definitely the best for sure.
So you kind of mentioned it there, and I assume this is the direction that you'll go. But on Heroes vs Villains, what are some of the best strategies to take? One that we've talked about a bit every time that Heroes vs Villains comes up, staying together as a team.
Yeah, that's I mean, even if the other team is like full of players that are better than you, if they're all on their own and you stick together, you'll win. It's like 99 times out of 100. It's just who can stick together, because let's just say like you roll around as a group of 4, and then if you kill 2 of them, then it's just a 4v2. You're going to win that, but then when they respawn, they're also on their own again, so they have to come at you on a 1v4, and you're just going to win every time. So it's really just who can stick together. And I guess like also just knowing the map, like if you're sort of all running at a Luke on a Kashyyyk, like he can push you off the edge, for example. So it's also
got
just
PTSD
like
from that.
Knowledge and stuff. But yeah, I honestly think that's the single biggest tip, is just if you stick with your teammates and all play your role, even if you're not as skilled as the other team, you'll still beat them pretty much every time.
Well, what are some of your advices? So you're as a team, and I've been in this situation. You're as a team, you're staying together, and then all of a sudden you start getting dropped. You're dispersed. What are some strategies you can take to get back together as a team?
It can be hard because of the spawns. Honestly, like I feel like if you start, let's just say like 2 of your teammates go down, it's probably a good idea that you and the other 2, or you and the other 1, sort of just fall back a bit and try and get somewhere where you think they're going to spawn, because then at least once your teammates respawn, they can sort of link up with you. But if you do go down and it's like everyone's spawning on opposite sides of the map and you can't get back to each other, honestly, I don't know if there's any tips for how to fix that. I think that's unfortunately one of the flaws of the game mode, that if one team kills all of you and it's 4 alive versus none alive, then it's nearly impossible to get back unless you can, just generally that's where it's like going to be a matter of skill. You're going to have to be far better than them to end up winning that game. But yeah, I'm not sure there's really any tips for fixing that. Honestly, it's just something that's always been a bit of an issue in the game mode. I think they needed to add like the squad spawn system maybe, to where you can spawn on your teammates or something, because that's always been a bit of an issue.
And as long as they're not in combat, that would have been a really good. I personally am one of those crazy people that would love. I love the spawn in combat part of co-op, but I know that's broken for some of the strategies, and depending on the player, it could really mess you up. So I understand.
I think
why
like
not.
a middle ground they could do is like, if they're in combat, instead of spawning right on them, maybe you spawn like within a certain distance, like 20 meters away or something like that.
Instead of the 50 meters away or 100 meters away or, like a whole kilometer away, it feels like sometimes.
Yeah, that's one of the, like, I almost won't play Heroes vs. Villains solo, just because if you're not working with your teammates, it's just impossible to get back from that, really. You just have to, just try and somehow pick them off, and if you can get one down and then you're with one teammate and it's a 2v3, maybe you can win that, but it's tough. It's honestly I think it's just a flaw in the game, really.
Yeah. So getting in the weeds a little bit, in terms of previously Heroes versus Villains was under a target system. Do you feel it's better as kind of like Hero Blast versus that target system? Do you think that really changed the game? Did you prefer it as that?
Personally, I preferred the old one, but it was broken as well. Like, if you had a boba, that just didn't work. So I wish that they could figure out some sort of like fix just for that, because I don't dislike the current one. It's just that, I think that was a bit more balanced, to where if you sort of all went down and it was just your target alive and then 4 on the other team, you could still kind of just all focus on their target and you could still sort of win that point. So I think it was a bit more balanced that way. There seemed to be a lot more like close games compared to the current one. It's kind of like if one team is like 35-30, like it's already just going to be a bit of a blowout, really. So yeah, it's hard to say. I think somehow fixing the old one would have been better, but at the same time, I'm sure they thought about that, and it might not have been possible, really, because characters like Boba and Luke that just ran around everywhere, it was pretty frustrating to deal with.
I remember when it was the target system, I glitched in, the Hoth map. I glitched into one of the ravines. Everyone else, when they tried to get to me, would die, but I was still alive. So anytime the target came to me, they weren't able to get me.
Oh, no. I think I know the one you're talking about, actually. I think I had seen that. There was some pretty bad, like, parts of, like, multiple maps. I know that there was another one on Hoth in, where there's, like, that big ravine in the middle, and then there's that sort of ice tunnel that goes through to like, the hangar area. Somehow you could get into the, like, there's like a tunnel, like a pipe in there, and you could somehow get in that. And it was just another one you couldn't, like, the other team just couldn't get in there. And then even on, like,
I remember that.
On Yavin 4, maybe, there was like a hole in one of the walls that you could get in, and then the only way they could kill you was to also get inside the wall, but then, like, you could just swing spam them to death pretty much. So yeah, it was kind of broken. Like, they probably made the right decision fixing the, changing the mode, but now that you say it, I do miss that mode. It was a lot of fun. It just had a lot of frustration as well, I guess.
I hated being the target, but also kind of loved it.
Yeah, it was very like stressful, and like the adrenaline would start pumping and you start going, oh no, I gotta get away, and it was it was a lot of fun. But man, I think just the small things that broke that mode really broke it. So it's unfortunate that it had to change, but yeah, they probably made the right decision, I think.
Do you remember Hero Hunt from Battlefront 2015?
I do, yeah. That was a lot of fun.
I'm kind of sad that it never got added, but also, like, it was super janky. Like, they constantly had to change how that game mode worked because nothing really worked very well. But it was fun.
Oh, hang on. I might be thinking of... What was Hero Hunt again? I think I'm thinking of Heroes as Villains, when it had, like, the troopers as well.
Yeah, no. This was... Hero Hunt was one hero versus the rest were troopers. It was like one hero versus like 5 troopers, and it would be randomly chosen.
Oh, I think I remember that. I feel like that might have come... that wasn't there at launch, was it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think... Because I only played, like, after the sort of initial launch and the sort of first wave of it, I only sort of would play randomly when there was DLC, so...
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever actually played it, but I remember seeing, like, people talking about it anyway.
Mm-hmm. I think it was a big... I remember watching Elliot play it a bunch on stream, so like they had it changed to where it depending on how much damage you did, you had a higher percentage of getting the hero. It was really strange.
Okay.
But kind of going on that idea, talking about how it worked previously, how it works now. Let's say we get a Battlefront 3. We can't talk about Battlefront 2 without going into thinking about Battlefront 3 ever. If there's a Battlefront 3, how would you like to see heroes changed for that game?
Honestly, the thing that I would love to see is actually having more hero modes that like have objectives, like something like capture the flag.
Oh, dude, like Overwatch?
Yeah, stuff like that I think would be really good to see. Even like there's a lot of variants of it. I think the initial modes were called like King of the Hill, but in like Call of Duty it's called Hardpoint, for example, and there's like an area on the map that is like the capture point, and you have to hold it and you get points for when you're capturing it, but then it will move around every 30 seconds, for example. And that would be a lot of fun to have like a bunch of heroes sort of defending a position, and then it changes and then the other team sort of catches it. And yeah, I think modes like that would be a lot more enjoyable than just like a regular sort of team deathmatch type thing, because I don't know, I think just having objectives just makes it a lot more important when you get a win. Like in Heroes vs Villains, it's almost just like if you get a win, it's like, oh nice, like it doesn't really matter. But if you get like a really close like a really clutch win on an objective game mode, like it just feels a lot more rewarding, I guess. So
if you are a new player, you have a lot more chance, if you are still learning the ropes, to affect the game. And you have something that you can go forward to as a team, rather than like, oh, this is just my skill and we have to stay together, otherwise like we're gonna lose. You have a common goal to go against.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a lot better for like the balancing, because you can have you could have a really, really good team against a really bad team, but the bad team might play together and they might still they might still lose, but they'll lose a lot closer than losing 35-0 in Heroes vs Villains. So
yeah.
I don't know if you can really change the current mode that much, but yeah, that's something I would love if we do get a Battlefront 3, is to have a lot more, like you could just have like a playlist with say like 3 different modes on rotation across all the maps that just has different objectives, like capture the flag and like hardpoint and stuff like that. Even like you could even just have sort of like a domination mode or conquest, but like small scale maps with like more than 4 heroes. Like you could have say 8 versus 8 and have like a domination game mode. That would be a lot of fun. So yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff they could do there, but whether that happens or not, it's hard to say, unfortunately.
Kind of off topic, but related. What would you say to limited time game modes? Because they tried this with Ewok Hunt. They tried this with Jump Pack Cargo. What would you say to like a limited time game mode where they had like the mainstay Heroes versus Villains experience, and then that would go away periodically, and you'd get those objective based game experiences?
I think that's if it's like a worry of player base, because I know that they didn't want to add too many modes for like the player base, because otherwise you split it too much. So if that's
Battlefront
like a worry
2015
for them,
struggled
then,
from that.
Yeah, exactly. If that's a worry for them, I think limited time modes are good fun, as long as they're just done enough on rotation. If it's like 3 months between when you get a mode and then you don't get it for another 3 months, like that's kind of sucks if you really enjoy it. But
yeah,
I have no problem with limited time modes, just so long as they're done properly, I guess. Like the ones that, like when we, for example, Jetpack Cargo, like we got it and then it just like disappeared. So
I want Jetpack Cargo
as long as it's
bad.
not literally limited, as in like it will be gone forever afterwards, then I think it should be something that they do look into, because a lot of other games do that, and it kind of gives you a reason to jump on too. Like you might have a mode that you really like and you're kind of getting bored of the regular one, and then they announce, hey, this weekend we're doing this mode, and you and all the boys jump on, and it's a reason to get on. So I think it's a good idea, just as long as it's done properly, really.
Or even like Apex does this with the map rotation. You have set time frames during the day where it's that map rotation.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. I really like a lot of the stuff that Apex does with that. It's like they kind of think outside the box in a lot of ways, which, I think a lot of games should sort of take notice of that, really.
Apex Legends. Think outside the loot box. I really enjoy that. Like when I first booted up Apex, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. When they started changing up the maps, instead of like you play this map and then you play this map, it's during this time frame you get this map. They could definitely do that. Like during, let's say for the next 2 hours, you get to play this specific heroes versus villains, and then the next 2 hours it's going to be like Overwatch but with Star Wars, and then the next 2 hours it's going to be team deathmatch. It's going to be capture the flag but heroes.
Yeah, I would definitely be keen on that. I think that's kind of like a really good middle ground, and allows you to, because the only alternative really is just having a playlist where it's just called, say, heroes versus villains, but then each like game is a different like objective kind of thing. But the only issue with that is like, if you only like one of them and the other three aren't that good, then you have to sit through 3 games that you don't really want to play to get to the one that you do. So
yeah,
I think what you said is really a good alternative to that, to where if you have one mode that you really like, well, you know what time it's going to be on and you can jump on at that time. And yeah, if they rotate them enough that, you know, maybe you can't make that time during the week, but at least on the weekend, you know, you can jump on at that time. So I definitely think that's something that I'd like to see more in any game, really, just having variety throughout, not just like the months, but throughout each single day as well.
Definitely. It brings you more interaction from a fan base. You get that, like, oh, the expectation, the excitement that your favorite mode's going to be coming up soon. You're probably going to be hopping on in a previous mode to wait for it. So I think it would be pretty fun if they did something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So closing thoughts for heroes versus villains. Key advice would be to, again, just sink some time into it. Find some heroes that you really enjoy playing. Put in the work. If you're playing heroes versus villains, definitely stick together. For Galactic Assault, so I'm not personally a huge Galactic Assault player, but what are some of the tips that you would give to the hero versus reinforcement versus ground combat?
It's a little bit harder, I think, with Galactic Assault, just because there's like so much, like the map's so big and there's so many different like enemies that you're gonna face. I think the main tip I would give is honestly just don't. You got to kind of like find that sweet spot of being not too aggressive, but also not too passive either. Because if you're sitting at the back of the map, you're of no use to the team. So
yeah,
you kind of just, I think it just comes through a lot of practice. Just trying to find the right pace to play at, not only just in general, but like everyone's going to have their own pace. I think there's like a big area that everyone can sort of play decent in, but I think everyone has their own specific pace. Some players are like super aggressive and they can do well. And then, for example, some people just can't play that aggressive, so they have to play a little bit slower. So, yeah, I think it just really just comes down to practice and even just watching a lot of YouTubers who do the kill streak stuff, just sort of like seeing what they do and seeing like, oh, he does that differently than me. Maybe I'll try that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really just to do with like the pace that you play at and just the really positioning, like knowing where to go, which again just comes with playtime. You kind of can't learn that without playing, I guess.
Definitely. I personally, when I'm granted the ability to play as a hero in Galactic Assault, I usually don't take it and just play as the reinforcements.
Yeah, the reinforcements are a lot of fun. Yeah, they're like a good. I think they're actually a good middle ground too, probably for players who are learning. If you can't get a hero, like obviously, generally it's going to be the sweats that are going to get like the first hero, and then they might have them the whole game. So. I think reinforcements are a good middle ground because like they're almost like a mix of a trooper and a hero, so you can get used to like playing them a bit more, you know, trying to go on streaks with them and trying to get a bit more comfortable with how to like play and where to be, really. So yeah, reinforcements are actually, I think they're sort of underrated in a way. A lot of people just kind of go, I'm either playing a hero or I'm playing a trooper, but yeah, reinforcements are not only a lot of fun, but they're that sort of middle ground as well.
I've said it before, and I will probably say it again. I would have loved to see a limited time game mode, a game mode that took place of another one, but like reinforcement blast, like only reinforcements. There isn't a limit to how many of a certain type you can have on the map. Like that would be epic.
That would be so much fun. that would actually be. I would like. I don't really play Blast that much, but I would play that so often if you could do that.
Same. Because I love all of the different variation that you can have with the reinforcements. I love the different play styles. Each one is so different from the other, and depending on what team you are. Like, also, just the headcanon that the Ewok is just jumping ship randomly and running with the rebellion. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly think that they managed to make them more unique than the heroes. Like, a lot of the Saber heroes are very similar to each other in a way. Even their abilities might be different, but the way you play them is just pretty much the same. But the reinforcements, man, there's like so many different ways. Even between all the aerials, like there's a lot of different ways to play them because they've all got like different blasters and different range that they do well at. So yeah, I think it's something I've definitely slept on. I'm like pretty much only a hero guy. Like if I'm going to play GA, it's like I'm just trying to get a hero. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I kind of would like to give them a bit more of a try because every single time I've used them, they're so much fun.
Yeah, definitely. I think my aerial is probably the most highly leveled thing I have in Battlefront.
Yeah.
Love the aerial. Anyway, dude, this has been an absolute blast. Always love having you on the show. It's been a while. Need to have you on more frequently.
Yeah, for sure. It has been a while. It's always good fun when I come on, so appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, definitely. Hope all goes well on your YouTube channel. Definitely go follow him, Sammy, on Twitter and socials until he gets his channel back. And then go through, watch every single video that he has ever produced, and enjoy. That's all for this episode of Uplink Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. You can support the show on Patreon, patreon.com/Uplink Podcast, to get exclusive content as well as access to Uplink Plus, a monthly exclusive podcast talking all things wider world of gaming, Star Wars, and more. Definitely come check this out and help us support the show. A great free way to support the show is by leaving us a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Anywhere you can leave a review of the podcast, it helps us out a ton and helps new listeners find the show. You can follow us on Twitter at Uplink Podcast as well as on Instagram, Uplink Podcast as well. Twitter is a great way to keep up to date on all things Star Wars gaming as well as all things on the show. Also, definitely check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/The Star Wars Battlefront Podcast. We stream every Saturday at, usually it's around 12 p.m. MST. We play Star Wars games, we play Among Us, we play all kinds of fun stuff, and it is a great time. Also, stay tuned for some more content coming to our YouTube channel as we are ramping things up for 2021. Also, if you love video games, Star Wars, plants, and pizza, definitely check us out on Discord. Link will be in the description. Come join our awesome community. You can listen to the show on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify. Wherever you find podcasts, you can find this show. As always, thanks for listening, and may the Force be with you.